to the Dignity Dialogue with your host, Joe Kittinger.
Hello, everyone. Joe Kittinger here with April Johnson.
Hello.
And we have another Dignity Dialogue coming at you, and we have a special topic for today.
We do. I'm excited about today because we are going to talk today about our Power Up, which I'm super excited. It is coming to Green Bay October 16th, Monday, October 16th.
Where?
At Lambeau.
Lambeau. That's right, Lambeau Field, folks. We did this last year, and it was a hoot.
Oh, my goodness. It's so exciting. And, it doesn't matter if you have lived in Green Bay your entire life or, in the area, in the shadow of Lambeau.
Yeah.
Or if you're coming from someplace else to come, it is always so exciting to be at Lambeau Field.
There is a definite energy that only that building and that tradition can put in the hearts of people.
Yeah.
And we took a big chance last year because we didn't know if any would attend, and it's kind of an expensive venue.
I was glad I was there.
It's probably the most expensive venue in Green Bay to be at Lambeau Field, and you guys showed up.
I know, it was awesome. Thanks everybody for coming.
They showed up, and so. But not only is it an exciting venue, let's talk about a little bit about that event last year.
Yeah, last year was so cool. It was, it was a lot of fun because, of course, it was our first kind of venture like that. And it was really great to see so many people from so many different areas of business. We had nonprofits that came and learned more about leadership.
Police and fire.
Yeah, police and fire. We had, construction and, wellness and so many different companies and so many different areas of work that were represented. And of course, we had Tom Thibodeau.
Oh yeah,
was there. He came from lacrosse.
He was a crowd favorite.
Yeah, seriously.
Tom is I would say the godfather of servant leadership in Wisconsin because Tom started, which is still going on today. You can get a master's in servant leadership at Viterbo University where he teaches. He's that wise, fun teacher that you've always wished you had.
So cool.
And he just energizes the crowd. He takes your spirit and raises it to a next level while making such a great connection on this idea of servant leadership. Matter of fact, his topic this year, April, will be better your person, better your leadership.
Wait a minute.
I know.
Tom's coming back?
Tom is coming back by popular demand.
I am totally going to be there.
They insisted on it.
I'm totally going to be there.
Yes, better your person, better your leadership. And when I talked to him about that, he was just saying, well, let's be honest. Like you have to be, you have to be the best. You have to truly step into who you are.
Yeah.
In order for you to better your leadership and affect other people, like lead
So
yourself first before you can lead others. And he's also looking at doing a breakout with us, which I'm pretty excited about, called, I named this because he talked to Good Grief, and I put Good Grief, the Charlie Brown solution. I mean, that's,
Of course you named it, Joe.
I mean, when he said Good Grief, I'm like, that's Charlie Brown, right? Good grief. That's what Charlie Brown would say all the time. But in more seriousness, he said, to create psychological safety, he's going to reveal the 4 elements of psychological safety and then talk about and understand that it's okay to grieve, that it's okay to talk about grief, and that there is good grief as well.
Yes.
There's good grief and there's bad grief.
He's spot on.
And he's going to unpack it by providing a language to discuss human emotions, and of course, based on dignity, which is the thing that we all agree upon, is dignity as a foundation of great leadership.
I think that's an awesome idea, and that is so cool that he wants to talk about grief. In fact, in a couple of my last trainings, we actually had some conversation around grief, because so often people think the only thing you grieve is someone passing. Mm-hmm. That's really the only way that we use that term. But there's so many things that we can grieve, and it's important to go through that process.
Well, and we say, someone is performing at work. Well, are they grieving? Have you taken the time to ask? Well, that's sensitive. It's none of my business. Well, as a human being, is it any part of your business to have a little compassion for another human being? I mean, because let's not say it's just one thing. I think people like to look at a human being and say, well, here's the one thing. Here's the reason why they're not performing, or here's the reason why. And they just want to have a simple one answer, this is it. No. We human beings are more complex than that. We have things going on in our personal life, right? We have certain innate motivations and gifts that we share with the world. And sometimes those gifts aren't really seen because you've put me in a little bit of a box because I'm so good at this one job. You can't even consider that I can do all these other things. And so you label me as this or as that. But even when people are struggling in their jobs, the majority of the time I've experienced, at least, they're grieving something.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You
That's
know?
exciting. It's
So,
going to be a great time this year.
It's great. And the way that he presents is just so lovely. And then, April, you're going to be having a panel discussion. We're going to have various leaders of various generations.
Yeah, we are, which I'm really excited about. I attended a conference, and I hosted, and I was able to do a panel, and it was a lot of fun, and it was really wonderful to be a part of hearing perspectives from other people.
Yeah.
Being able to take the time, and whether it was a mom that was working a hybrid schedule at home, or another gal that runs this big giant company. Everybody has different perspectives, and the conversations come from different experiences. And so being able to ask questions about things like equity and empathy and imposter syndrome and so many other things, and gain somebody else's perspective. It's like you get 12 speakers at an event, and you get to take in all those different perspectives. So I'm excited about the panel this year.
And finally, just as a reminder too, last year people left with a game plan.
They did.
So we use the theme, of course, is football, and we use that theme of making a game plan. And you will literally arrive with a little pamphlet, a little game plan book, and through the day you're going to transfer powerful thoughts and insights that you personally gained to help empower you and help charge your leadership game. And so actually we have several folks who are coming back this year, and in the beginning I'm going to ask them, so if you're coming back, bring your playbook. I want to know, did you execute? Did you fall short, which is okay too? This is a good reminder, I need to get back in it. Because creating a game plan is critical to hold yourself accountable so you don't get caught into the same, right? A routine. We're so caught in the routine. I got to do this. I got to stay busy. I got to do this. I got to do that. And we have to also work on ourselves. And that's what this event is for. It's to empower your leadership heart, empower you with energy, so that you can just charge into the new year feeling refreshed and have a plan. That's the whole goal.
I like it.
Yeah.
Kick butt.
You got to kick butt.
Feels like
That's
you have
right.
to say that because we're at Lambeau.
Because it's exhausting.
It is.
It's so
careful.
easy to give up. It's so easy to say, I don't want to lead today. I don't want to lead this month. Matter of fact, my wife Danica and I have a funny little thing that we do whenever we're feeling overwhelmed, because we're human, right? Whenever we're feeling like throwing in the towel, we say things like, screw it. We're going to grab a blender and move to Mexico. Sell everything. Let's get the hell out. We would say all we need is a little stand on the side of a beach, and you're going to cut mangoes, and I'm going to blend drinks, and just be done with it, But you don't. You get up the next day, and you get back at it.
Let's get to work.
We get back at it. So this leadership power up at Lambeau is going to be something to get you rejuvenated.
I love that.
And we're going to focus on you.
Yep. And at the end, you might hear a blender. I'm just saying.
Well, we do have some fun added delights. Last year we had an impersonator who impersonated Vince Lombardi. We have a little added delight, a little surprise with every Prophet power up to have you go, what? Well, what's that? So we have that all lined up too. So we're going to have some fun. It's going to be meaningful, but most importantly, it's focused on you as a leader and reflecting on what you need to do or what you'd like to do as you move into the next year. So with that, we have another topic and a guest today.
I know, I'm so excited.
April, why don't you introduce her?
All right. Well, here with us today, which I'm very excited to tell you, is someone who has become really a dear friend of ours. a partner really
Yes.
with us. And we're going to learn a little bit more about that today, of course. But please welcome Michele Molitor, all the way from California.
San Francisco, the Bay Area, as they call it.
Yes, indeed.
Welcome, Michele.
We have a Bay Area
Thank you. It's so great to see you both.
We have a Bay Area here too, Michele. It's called Green Bay.
You're right.
You know?
do.
So-
I'll see your bay and raise you one.
It's interesting. There's Tampa Bay, right? And there's Green Bay. They used to call in football the Battle of the Bays. Right? They used to be in our they used to be in our division in the NFL. And when we play the 49ers, I mean, San Francisco is also the Bay Area, but they never have Battle of the Bays. But we still kind of have a Battle of the Bay there.
Yeah.
I digress. Michele, welcome.
Look, sparkly bit. Oh,
Michele was introduced to us quite by fate. We were just starting the podcast, and April and I had a couple of sessions or a couple of podcasts that we threw out there without guests. And then we said, hey, let's have guests. So we started fishing around, and Michele was like, hey, this might be good. I think we actually found Michele. We reached out to Michele. She goes, yeah, I would love to be a guest. She was our very first guest, and we have created a tight connection since. We align on dignity. We align on personal growth. And Michele's area of expertise, and she will be presenting at the Power Up.
Dun, da, da. She is one of our speakers at the Power Up this year.
Yes, she is. And it's on Imposter Syndrome. And I'm quite certain, Michele, after especially just getting to know you and seeing your work in the area of Imposter Syndrome, that I think it is very much I'm guessing the number one thing that holds people back from stepping in who they really are. It has really nothing to do with the outside environment. It has to do with their own thoughts. And so why don't you tell us just an overview of Imposter Syndrome for those who are hearing it for the first time, or like a reminder in your area of expertise.
sure. Well, thank you again for having me on the podcast. Always fun to be here with you and to see your happy faces. Imposter syndrome is that little thought in your brain that just is constantly there, that is trying to convince you that you're a fraud, that you really don't know as much as you think you do, or as that others think you do, despite your accolades, despite your achievements, despite your years of expertise. I've seen it in so many of my clients that I've worked with all over the world, and it is a very prevalent internal dialogue. I recently gave a talk, and, I love doing some polls, and we found out that I think 79% of the participants, 79% all said they'd had some imposter syndrome since 2020. And if it's left unchecked, if you don't deal with it, then it can very easily manifest and fester into overwhelm, burnout, anxiety, depression, right? And so the thing that I try to do every day with the clients I get to work with is to help them recognize the self-doubt, the internal dialogues that they're having with themselves that are creating this false belief about themselves. And as you start to rewire your thinking, replacing those old outdated beliefs with new empowering ones, then it helps them stand a little taller, a little bit more confidently in who they are as a leader, who they are as a person, as a parent, all of those things, so that they can have more joy in their lives and more satisfaction.
Well, that poll that Michele recently shared that she took was not just with a couple dozen people. Michele recently spoke at Emory. Is it university or college, Michele?
Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia. Yeah, it was a virtual presentation as part of their speaker series, and we had almost 1,200 people registered for it, so it was pretty exciting.
Yeah, it was a nice body of folks who attended, and I have to tell you, you were exceptional. I was able to tune in, as you know, and just riveting riveting information. And I'm like, that's what she's got to talk about, and even in more detail at our event coming up here in October.
I'm super excited. Of course, I couldn't be there virtually, but I was able to watch some of it. Carrie, one of our coaches, sent me a recording of it. So I was able to watch some of it. I didn't watch all of it because I want to be surprised at some of the things at the session, because that's how I'm wired. And so I didn't watch all of it, but I loved what I watched, and I'm excited about just being able to learn more, just like everybody else that's coming to the Power Up.
What I really like about your approach, Michele, is you make it approachable, and you make it somewhat tangible. You know, all these thoughts you have in your head and all these negative thoughts, I think people can relate to that, right? Matter of fact, I saw, I think Gallup did a poll with the workforce, a certain percentage of the workforce in America, and they found that 85% of those interviewed reported some level of imposter syndrome. They did another report regarding imposter syndrome, and they discovered only 5% of companies actually do anything about it. So imagine if you're an employer, and let's say you employ 100 to 200 people. It doesn't matter, 50 doesn't matter, but you employ a body of folks. Imagine what it can do for your business if you just introduced ways to help an individual step into their true self and help squash imposter syndrome. Even if you don't get rid of it entirely, imagine if you just reduced that voice by 50%. What might that employee think of you, right? What might they think of you when they're going to work, when they're spending time with their family? And so you actually identified a handful of types of imposters syndrome, I guess, personalities. Or why don't you explain, Michele, what you've uncovered, because you know more than I do.
Sure thing, Joe. So having suffered from imposter syndrome myself after getting bullied out of my corporate career many, many years ago, it's been a bit of a passion of mine to figure out, well, why is it that some people have confidence and other people don't, and what's at the heart of it, and all of that. So I've spent the last 20 plus years researching and doing work in this arena as an executive coach. And looking closer and closer to imposter syndrome, what I found is imposter syndrome's like the tip of the iceberg, right? You only see this much of the iceberg above the water. The rest of it is way down here, right? And so the underbelly, the part of imposter syndrome that's way beneath the water level is really self-doubt. Right. And as I looked at this and explored it further and looked at all the clients that I've worked with over the years, I've discovered 5 different self-doubt archetypes. Right. And so each one impacts us a little differently. And you might recognize yourself a little bit in all of them. I like to think of them as the love languages of self-doubt. Right.
The opposite.
We each have one or two that are most prominent and then drive our behaviors more often than most. So let me walk you through those 5 different self-doubt archetypes, and then we'll spend a little time at the Power Up talking about this too. So the first one, and by way out in front of the pack, it is the most popular, is the procrastinating perfectionist. Right? These are our friends who procrastinate. They overwork something until they get it just right before they're willing to put their work product out into the world for other people to judge. That fear of being judged is pretty petrifying.
Yeah.
The second one is the shapeshifter. And these are friends who are masterful at juggling multiple roles to please others. They're super people pleasers. And it's oftentimes because they've had a very overbearing caregiver, oftentimes even a narcissistic caregiver, right? So they're constantly having to shapeshift to be whoever that person needed them to be to stay safe, right? So it's really a safety mechanism. The third is the reluctant resistor. And these are our friends who are so afraid of being seen or judged or rejected for their work that they're reluctant to even take on new challenges for fear of failure. So that fear of failure is very powerful for them. Number 4 is the anxious avoider, one of my personal favorites that I've overcome. And these are folks who are so scared of being rejected for not having all the answers, for not knowing enough. So they feel that they're always, they need to do it by themselves, because if they ask for help, someone will figure out that they're a fraud, right? And then number 5 is the fearful follower. And these are folks who they doubt themselves so much that they don't trust their own gut, their own expertise. So they're always following the advice of others instead of trusting what their innate wisdom is trying to lead them to do. So each one of these has a set of particular patterns that drive people. And as you start to uncover which self-doubt archetype is really driving your bus, then you can start to take back the reins, take back driving your own destiny by standing more fully and authentically in who you are as you dial down and dial down and dial down those voices of self-doubt. So when they become just little tiny mouse squeaks in the background that you can shoo away.
And that's what's so great about what Michele does, is she helps shut that down. And at the Power Up, she's going to give us some ways to begin that journey of shutting down that voice. And I think, like your 5 archetypes, that's one example of making it tangible. Like a person can identify, I identify with that one. Whether it's loud or whether it's soft.
Right.
Right. Everyone has it. Some are louder voices, some are softer voices. But it's important that we address this. It's important that we talk about it, because else it remains in the shadows, it remains in the dark, and then you're seeing behaviors that you brush off as this is the one reason why that person is doing it. Mm-hmm. They're incompetent because of this. Oh, there's your own one answer. They're incompetent. They've been competent for a long time, and now they're in a slump.
Right.
Right. And so I think it's important to talk about imposter syndrome. It's important to talk about good grief. It's important to talk about these things so that we can arm leaders with modern day realities.
Sure.
Right? That old leadership models never talked about.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I think back as you were talking about that, Joe, my grandma used to say, nothing good happened in the dark.
My mother said nothing good happened after midnight.
Yeah, and exactly. And it kind of went to my curfew, I want to stay out later, and like we're going to play night games, until midnight. My grandma would say nothing good happens at night, right?
Right.
Nothing good happens in the dark. And that is a very true statement when it comes to things like imposter syndrome and self-doubt, these topics. We try to keep, it's like this secret. But let's face it, how it comes out of us is seen.
Yes.
It is
always.
seen. Whether you say it out loud or you don't say it out loud, you've said it.
Yes.
Right. And we see it in how we respond to our life, how we respond to something when the crap hits the fan, so to speak, right? Or when something is awry, we go into those modes and we think we're keeping it a secret and we're keeping it in the dark, when the reality is that we see the outcome.
Everyone knows
of it. Everybody knows.
Absolutely. I always like to tell people, you've got these blinders on and you're only seeing life through this particular perspective because you're too afraid to see of all the other opportunities that are available to you. But just because you're doing this doesn't mean everybody else can see the bigger picture, right? So you're not fooling anybody. Right. You're only fooling yourself. And this work is all about taking your head out of the sand and compassionately being kind to yourself and letting go of oftentimes it's old programming that we adopted or inherited from our families of origin in different ways, shapes, and forms, right? So when you think about it, how often do we update the software programming in our phone? Like every year at least, right? They force you to do it.
Right.
But how often are we updating our own mental maps and mental programming? Right?
Wow.
And so that's at the heart of this work, is really about taking time to review, revise, and recommit to being your own best self as a person, as a leader, by letting go of the internal dialogues that really don't serve your growth anymore. They were there for a reason, to protect you. But now, maybe as a full-grown adult, you don't need those things to protect you anymore, and you can let them go.
You can't grab onto new things when your arms are filled with all the old things and all the things that you think you have to hang on to. And there's often, I talk to so many leaders who are waiting to kind of move forward. Yeah. Right? Waiting, like, I want to move up. I want to keep going. But we have to let go of some things before we can grab onto some new things.
Just being informed, as you present it, Michele, it's so approachable. It becomes so understandable that you literally in the moment can start letting boxes down. You can start releasing weights just in the moment of knowing. And I know anyone who decides to come to our event and to hear Michele, you're going to feel lighter. I felt lighter just listening to you at the Emory speech. I felt lighter because it was like, oh man, that's so approachable. That's easy to understand. It's not high level scientific stuff that kind of flies over one's head. You made it very approachable, which I loved. I felt lighter, and I know anyone coming to see Michele live especially is going to feel her energy, her sincerity, and feel lighter as they leave. This is what we're trying to do as a company, is to help leaders lead, and a lot of it is to remove the weight. Step into who you really are. I know it's used a lot, the best version of you, and sometimes I slip and say that once in a while, but I believe we already are wonderful versions. It's like dropping the weight to allow us to have the courage to step into who you really are, and not the expectations of the past, right? Of maybe that our parents or caregivers put on us that we're still carrying around with us, and there's certain key signs I've noticed in my work around this subject, and I'm sure April and Michele, I bet you can relate too. Examples of what people do or don't do because of imposter syndrome. And one that comes to mind is you meet, and I've seen this even on the higher executive levels, like higher middle management, not the middle, but the higher middle management, where they will be totally in sync with what you're doing, right? They're like, this is awesome. My boss would love this. Great. Let's set up a meeting with your boss. Oh, no. Well, why? Well, it's because of one of the imposter syndrome. If you have a great idea, what leader doesn't want a subordinate to come to them and go, what do you think of this idea? Do you think that leader's going to go, you idiot? You know what I mean? That's what leaders want. They want people to come up with ideas, present new ways of doing something. Not that I would accept it or the leader would, but to share it, they just don't have the courage to even share it. And that's one example of what I see with imposter syndrome. Like, how would an industry fly if we honestly felt something was great for the company and we felt confident enough to talk to our leader about it? To me, that's one example. Do you guys have any others that come to mind?
It would be a game changer. And there's so many people who are hiding out or holding back. We'll say holding back, right? From bringing their full self to the table because of experiences in their past where, well, I brought an idea to the table and I got shot down, or I got embarrassed, or I got called out. And so in those moments, we make a decision. Oh, don't do that again.
Right.
It'll hurt. Right. And so that little part of our brain, the amygdala, which is our fight, flight, or freeze mechanism, that's just there to keep you safe. Right. We'll be like, no, don't do that again. Right. And we'll steer clear of anything that remotely looks like those previous events. right? So this shows up all the time in workspaces because we all are, quite frankly, fragile human beings, right? That have had wounds from the past that we're all trying to avoid not stepping in again, right?
Yeah.
And we don't know what each person is carrying around because we're all like trying to look really confident. I've got it all together, right? But inside they're like, I hope I don't figure it out. I don't really know what I don't know, right? So it's fascinating the dynamics of human beings and how they work together or don't inside of workplace organizations.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the other piece of that for me is a little bit of a myth between this idea of contentment and settling. I work a lot with those first round leaders, right? The leaders who maybe have worked on the floor and now they're just moving into management. They're just coming into those areas. And quite often I have seen with imposter syndrome that people who have great ideas, they have great potential. We all have greatness in us. And I know those of you that listen to the podcast, I say that a lot and I mean it.
Yeah.
Like there is greatness in all of us. But there are folks that have this drive in them, but because of that, that self-doubt, they think, well, you know what? I'm good. I'm good where I am. Like I'm good. I'm content. I have no issue with content. I love being content. I'm content in where I am in that very moment. Mm-hmm. I am content. But it does not mean that I am willing to settle. And imposter syndrome sometimes for me says it's okay to just stop here. It's okay to settle. It's okay not to push yourself. Mm-hmm. It's okay not to risk it because you might be wrong. You may get you might get pushback. You might not get the job that's the next one up, right? You may not get it. And that's okay. You're okay right where you are. And I think that's a little bit of a myth.
Yeah,
I
agree with that.
I can be content where I am right now, and I can continue to move forward to become the best that I can become.
Well, an example of that, April, is we see this all the time. We work primarily in the manufacturing, construction services, right? Where someone's an awesome machine operator. And so because maybe they have a leader that says, oh, I'm sure they want to be a foreman or they want to get to the next level, they might be completely content being the best machine operator, right? They know how to do it. They're confident. They can fix it. And what happens is they're confronted about this opportunity to go to the next level and lead the people that run the machines, but don't actually run the machine anymore. You have to run the people that run the machines. Well, one, they don't know how to run the people.
Right.
They may not have a desire, depending on how they're wired. Like, that's not even my desire. I just love being hands-on running this machine. Now you've lost your best machine operator, and you have a lousy supervisor, and everybody's miserable. Mm-hmm. The people under them are miserable. The individual's miserable, and it creates anxiety that's unnecessary. And that's, I think, an example of what you're talking about. It's okay to identify and have a great conversation with someone about just staying put. And you know what? And I can give you raises and I can give you extra income, so to speak, because you're the best machine operator we have.
And at the same time, you may have the very person on your team who could be the leader that takes that whole team to the next level, but they don't believe that they're that.
Yes.
And so they're okay with just being a machinist. They're okay. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Thank you, all machinists. I'm good, but I think I might want something else, but I'm not sure I can get there.
Well, you're showing the difference of someone who goes, no, I love this. This is what I want to do.
And they thrive.
And staying confident, saying, this is what I want, versus I'm afraid, I believe it's in me, and I go on this pendulum swing. I think it is. No, it's not. I think it is. No, it's not. Right? And when you feel yourself on that pendulum swing, that's when you pause and go, oh, I think it can. Mm-hmm. Right? Because why else would I swing over there?
That's right.
And that's what you're talking about, being true to yourself.
Yep. Absolutely.
And that there's a difference.
Exactly.
Look at this enlightening conversation. Only on the Dignity Dialogue.
So cool.
Indeed.
It's so neat. You know, I can't help but think that it wasn't that long ago. I mean, not to age myself, but it wasn't that long ago that this would have been the very last conversation we would have been having when it came to work. I'm really proud of so many people that have stepped forward, that have said, no, I want to talk about this. We've got to talk about this. This is a part of business because we're people.
That's right.
Right. We're human beings.
We're human beings.
Not human doings.
Yes.
And the beauty of this work is people recognize that and like, oh, we can find a better way to communicate with each other that allows for the soft, squishy emotion stuff on the inside without making it feel soft and squishy and uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes.
That's the thing that has been such a game changer for me and the whole Dignify tool, because it really creates this powerful framework for people to have these conversations with psychological safety.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. And that is so important because that's the feeling of not being safe is what has all of us do this, right? To hide out inside of our comfort zone. And like, no, I'm good. Yeah, I'll just stay here because we know what we know about our comfort zone, even if it's starting to get tight and uncomfortable and squishy in there, right?
Yeah.
People would much rather risk staying inside of their uncomfortable comfort zone than stepping outside of that to find something more expansive.
Yeah.
And this work is all about helping people see that, oh, there's so much more out there for me to experience and to be and to bring of myself to the work that they do in a way that feels really good and creates a lot more satisfaction in life.
Amen.
I love it. I love
Awesome. Well, Michele, thank you for being with us today as we share this exciting Leadership at Lambeau event, Prophit Co Power Up. Again, it's coming up October 16th, which is a Monday. You can go to prophit.com, prophit.com, click on events, workshops, and you will be brought to the sign-up page. We also have on their information, we have a hotel if you're out of town. A Loft is doing discounted room rates. A Loft, it's less than a mile from Lambeau Field. If you're traveling and need to stay the night. So we've gotten you taken care of. Yes. It's a full day event. There's going to be, it's just going to be a wonderful experience, and we hope you can join us. Leadership at Lambeau, October 16th, which is a Monday. Michele, thank you so much for being our guest today, and we'll see you in October.
So good to see you.
I can't wait. Looking forward to it, y'all. Have a great day.
All right. See you, everyone.
This has been the Dignity Dialogue with Joe Kittinger. Talk at you later.